Hollywood royalty just did the unthinkable. Two of the most powerful directors in the industry, Steven Spielberg and Francis Lawrence, reportedly made a behind-the-scenes call that could end a rising star's career. Their target? Rachel Zegler, the same actress once celebrated as the future of Disney, the next big thing, the woke icon of a new generation. But somewhere along the way, everything changed. Directors are cutting ties. Studios are backing out, and Hollywood insiders are leaking stories that sound more like a warning than gossip. So what really happened? Behind the curtain, how did Rachel Zegler go from being the chosen one to someone no one wants to work with? This is the story of how a star fell, and why Hollywood doesn't want her back. It was supposed to be her fairy tale. In 2021, Disney proudly announced that Rachel Zegler would lead the live-action remake of Snow White. She'd already earned critical praise for West Side Story. She had the look, the voice, and the political appeal. She was young, outspoken, and boldly feminist. A Gen Z dream casting. But almost immediately, cracks began to show. Zegler's press interviews began trending, but not for the reasons Disney hoped. She called the original Snow White weird, mocked the prince, suggested the story needed to be rewritten entirely. Fans were stunned. People asked, why take a role in a beloved story if you clearly despise everything about it? And Zegler's response only added fuel to the fire. She doubled down, laughed off the backlash, said she didn't care what traditional fans thought. Still, it was easy to dismiss this as internet drama, just a wave of online hate. But the real backlash, that came from inside the industry. According to insiders, two directors, Steven Spielberg and Francis Lawrence, were the first to pull back. Remember, Spielberg handpicked Zegler for West Side Story. He believed in her talent, but sources claim his tone changed dramatically after the Snow White controversy exploded. Behind closed doors, both Spielberg and Lawrence allegedly expressed concern about Zegler's behavior on set. In leaked, call summaries, she was labeled uncooperative, a PR liability. One director reportedly said, "She's a star on camera, but a storm off of it." For Hollywood, that's code for, don't hire her. But what triggered this shift from admiration to damage control? The answer is worse than fans expected. Multiple anonymous crew members have now come forward, describing Zegler as a nightmare behind the scenes. One source from The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes set said she was uncoachable, constantly arguing with the director about character motivation. Others claim she mocked classic lines in Snow White, refused to say them, and pushed for total script rewrites mid-shoot. She allegedly called some dialogue sexist garbage and demanded reshoots to modernize the princess. Insiders say Francis Lawrence tried to rein her in, but she refused. Spielberg, once her champion, reportedly stopped defending her altogether. By the time filming wrapped, whispers of director's nightmare and set killer began circulating among executives. And if you know how Hollywood works, you know how fast those whispers travel. Rachel framed her criticism of classic stories as feminism. She said she wanted to reshape how princesses were portrayed. But critics say she didn't just challenge old norms, she insulted them, and by extension, insulted the people who made them. A former Disney executive stated, "It's one thing to evolve a character, it's another to call the original story offensive and expect us to cheer." Worse, Zegler's identity politics didn't shield her from criticism. In fact, they made the backlash louder. Fans accused her of hiding behind buzzwords to avoid taking accountability for her behavior. When interviewers asked her to clarify, she laughed, shrugged, brushed it all off. She wasn't just fighting with the internet anymore, she was clashing with the people who write the checks. And then, the studio silence started. Disney suddenly cancelled Rachel's press appearances. No Comic-Con, no D23 panel, no media tours. Her name quietly disappeared from internal schedules. Casting directors stopped pitching her. Some agents reportedly warned, "She's not worth the risk." It was as if a switch had flipped. Executives who once saw her as the future of woke Hollywood now viewed her as a liability, not because she was outspoken, but because she was unpredictable. The industry doesn't fear rebellion. What it fears is chaos. Then came the final humiliation. The Simpsons aired a brutal parody, featuring a woke princess who hates her own story and argues with everyone on set. The character looked exactly like Rachel. TikTok lit up with side-by-side comparisons. People started calling the parody accurate, savage, long overdue. Meanwhile, early screenings of Snow White revealed a problem. Audiences weren't just disinterested. They were angry. Theaters sat half empty. Test scores dropped. The film flopped. And Disney knew it. Zegler, instead of apologizing or clarifying, posted cryptic Instagram captions and told fans who disliked her comments to simply unfollow. What could have been a humble moment turned into a public meltdown. And while Rachel vented online, insiders were leaking even more behind the scenes. According to unverified reports from studio insiders, several high-level calls circulated between Spielberg's team and other industry power players. Zegler's name was mentioned not as a future lead, but as a cautionary tale. One casting director said, "Directors are passing around her stories like Hollywood folklore. That folklore includes accusations of talking down to production assistants, resisting ADR sessions, and ghosting interviews. Whether those stories are exaggerated or not almost doesn't matter, because perception is everything in this town. And, right now, Zegler's perception is radioactive. Producers no longer ask, how talented is she? They ask, is she worth the drama?" To her credit, Zegler has hinted at personal struggles. In a now-deleted post, she spoke about feeling overwhelmed and misunderstood. But critics say she never truly reflected. Instead of owning the fallout, she blamed media, fans, and the system. She even suggested that actors deserve royalties when their movies are streamed repeatedly. In theory, that's a fair point. But in context, after a flop, and in the middle of a PR crisis, it came off as tone-deaf and opportunistic. What audiences wanted was humility. What they got was deflection. So, is Rachel Zegler finished in Hollywood? Not necessarily. This industry loves a redemption arc almost, as much as it loves a scandal, but to rebuild her reputation she'll need more than talent. She'll need self-awareness, silence, and time. For now, though, the verdict is clear. The same directors who launched her career are now walking away. Studios are no longer returning calls. Audiences aren't showing up. And the actress, once hailed as Disney's next icon, is now Hollywood's biggest warning sign. What happens next is up to her. But in a town where your reputation is everything, Rachel Zegler has a lot of rebuilding to do, and the clock is ticking.